was that the world record? Like, did we seriously just break this world record? And everybody's like, yes! And I'm in the pool and everybody's going crazy.
What was one of the harder setbacks that you've had?
When I walked out for my very first Olympic race, like my legs felt like jello. I was like, oh wow. That Olympics was like a fairy tale. Like to come home and be like, I won a gold, a silver, a bronze, and I actually got fourth also. So broke an American record, was a part of a world record relay. That was surreal. We broke the oldest world record in the history book. It was like literally starting from zero again.
How did you overcome that?
It touches my heart there, Craig, because I definitely had some really tough challenges to overcome in my athletic career. But I really do think they shape you and they make you stronger in the end.
Kaitlin Sandeno is an Olympic gold medalist, world champion swimmer, and former world record holder. She shined at the 2000 and 2004 Olympics, capturing 4 medals and helping Team USA break a 17-year drought with gold in the 4x200 meter freestyle relay. Off the blocks, Kaitlin is an accomplished author of Golden Glow, a motivational speaker, sports broadcaster, and entrepreneur. She's also been honored with the USA Swimming Humanitarian Award for her work beyond the pool. Please welcome the unstoppable Kaitlin Sandeno.
I was a huge water baby from like the time I was old enough to go off of the diving board at our local summer pool. You know, it was like as soon as I was walking, I wanted to go off the diving board. I had no fear. I loved the water. My parents said it was even hard to get me out of the bathtub. So I had just a huge like draw to the water from a very young age. And then in general, you know, I'm the youngest of 3 girls, and we all grew up as a very active family. We were in sports, like everything, you name it, we tried it. But I was going to like my first swim meet when I was like 2 weeks old because my sisters were really involved in swimming. And so when I was old enough to join the local summer league swim team, that was 5 years old. You know, I was great, but I wasn't like superstar. I was super competitive, like really, really competitive. Like I thought it was a race who got out of the pool first, like not who touched first. So I'd like touch and jump out of the pool and like see if I won, like at 5 years old, and like doing breaststroke, like looking all around to see if I was winning.
Do you think you were born that way, that competitive, or because you were born into a competitive family?
I do believe I was born that way. And after my competitive career, I did some coaching, some private coaching, some team coaching. And I believe it even more so after being a coach. You can see it when athletes have it or not. You can see it in their eyes, and it's just the way that they're hardwired. And I really think you're born with it. Either you have that fire, that competitiveness, that drive, or you don't. I do think it can be developed. I think coaches can bring it out more, or it can be motivated out of individuals. But ultimately, I feel like it's something that you're born with or you're not. And for my competitive side, yeah, it was on the field. I was really involved in soccer. I was really into cross country, obviously swimming, but even playing games like with my family. My mom's like, I wouldn't play with you. You're too competitive. And it's like my dad and I were playing like those matching games at a young age. And I was so competitive, just matching cards at like 6, 7 years old. So I do believe it's something that you're born with.
When did you, obviously that carried with you and was probably a very important character trait for you to have to go on to, go to Olympics. When did you first maybe realize that, when was your dream to go to the Olympics? Was that early on in your childhood, or when did you first realize that you could obtain that goal?
That's a great question, because, you know, my family, as much as my parents really committed us to athletics and being active and, you know, not being couch potatoes, they weren't like super pushy in the sense of like cracking the whip on the side of the pool deck. They just would drive us and get us there and encourage us to try everything. But it was like almost like other people surrounding our family was like, oh, your daughter's going to be an Olympic swimmer, before like we even kind of processed it. You know, it was like, I was good at a young age, but I was also really, first of all, really undersized for a really long time. I went through puberty really late. I was really skinny for a long time. I didn't really have a lot of muscle on me for a long time. I was like skin and bones and just charging through the water with just the Energizer Bunny. I never got tired. But the girls that I was competing against that were taller, bigger, stronger, already going through puberty were better than me, right? And so I had to catch up a lot. And I feel like I was good. I started to get great probably around 14, 15. And then I made my first international team at 16, which,
Okay.
yes, is young to a lot of people, but also in the swimming world, it's not unheard of,
Yeah.
really, especially for the females. And so my first international competition was the Pan American Games. And that's where I was like I think I was like the second youngest on the team. I went just kind of like deer in headlights, never swam an international competition before, but just loved to race. So I was just excited to be there and to have the Team USA on the cap and just like my last name. It was just like this like, oh, moment. And then I won both of my events and I broke two Pan American records. And that was like the light bulb moment for me. Like, oh, hey, I'm pretty good,
Yeah.
because I'm competing at an international level now. Like, it's not just at my high school and it's not just like in our county or whatnot. Like, I'm up against the world and I'm winning. And then, honestly, it's so crazy because it almost sounds too good to be true. And I'm almost like, I like get kind of bashful admitting this. Like, I had that realization at 16 and I made my first Olympic team the next summer at 17.
Let's
So it
go.
was like a really quick process. I'm really thankful for my coaches. They
Hmm.
saw the talent in me before I did, before my parents did. They were actually like my swim coaches were the ones that were like, okay, like we know you're really good at soccer, but we think you could be really great at swimming if you stop doing another sport and finally committed to swimming. And they saw that talent in me and they saw that potential. And then when I got back from that competition, I was just referring to my coaches. We had one meeting, and my coaches are like, do you want to train for the Olympics? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And that's all we talked about it. They're
Wow.
like, fill your parents in. Nothing's really going to change. Like, we were always just training to be the best. I was still, young. I was still in high school. Like,
Yeah.
we still only had certain hours of the day that I could be in the pool. And I worked my butt off and I made my first team at 17 years old.
Wow.
So it was kind of like that quick realization, like the year before. It was kind of surreal when I think, when I look back on it.
Yeah. So you said you did soccer a good bit too. I didn't know I was going to ask you this, but how important was maybe cross training, doing different sports? How did that help you in the pool going to the Olympics?
Oh, I think that was tremendous. Not only for my conditioning, like not only for like the physical aspect, but I think the mental aspect. Because if you're a hardcore athlete at a young age, burnout is inevitable. I
Hmm.
mean, burnout is inevitable at any, like when you stay in a sport for any amount of time. But if you're going like 24/7 one sport from a young age, it's like you're not going to make it through high school. And so,
Yeah.
my soccer helped my cross country helped my swimming helped my soccer. Like no joke, like my nickname was the Energizer Bunny. Like I went from a soccer game to a swim meet. I'm changing in the car, like out of like my uniform into my suit, and I never got tired. And I was just always just like go, go, go. And that, I mean, honestly, like it's disappointing for me to see right now how focused young athletes are
Mm.
becoming at such a young age. It's like, why are we doing this? It's like they're picking one sport, they have private lessons, they have private coaches, they're on three, different teams, and it's like they're 8 or 9 years old. I'm like, are you kidding
Yeah.
me? So again, to each their own, but I just really think multiple sports is so important. Obviously, like I know it's probably different when you get there. Like we don't have children quite yet, so it's like okay, when you become a parent, you might reassess it differently. And I've had friends say that they're like, "Look, like I wish it wasn't this way, but it's this way." And I was like, "But
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be, Like, how do you know what you're going to be really good at if you don't give it like a solid try in the things?
Absolutely.
Like, you could be totally missing out your calling because you thought you were going to be in a different sport."
That's so true. And, I completely agree. And this is funny when you said your nickname was the Energizer Bunny. In high school, because I told you I also swam in college and I actually played varsity baseball in college at Penn State as well. I was a two sport athlete. I joined swimming early on in my life so I could train for baseball because, you're swimming, you're strengthening your shoulders, your rotator cuffs. Baseball is my main sport. But in high school, my high school swim coach gave me the superlative of Energizer Bunny. I got a t-shirt with the Energizer Bunny on it because he said that no matter what he threw at me, I could, handle it and take it. So that's just so funny that, we have that in common. I didn't know you were going to say
I love
that.
that. And it
Yeah.
is, that's like so flattering, right? Like that is like a
Yeah.
huge honor and a huge pat on the back. I love
Yeah.
that. I need the
Yeah.
shirt. What the heck? I didn't get a
I
shirt.
know, I know. It was iron printed, is
I
simple,
don't
but
care. That's awesome.
I don't even know if I still have it, but so at 17, it was this in 2000, you made your first Olympics. Yeah.
Yes, we're really aging me
What
right
was
now.
that experience like? Because you were probably seeing maybe some of your idols and people that you maybe even looked up to. What was all that like when you first started?
It was so surreal because, we were a pretty laid back, competitive athletic family. Like my parents like weren't super like in the know with things. I didn't even really like know my times.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just loved to race. I got up, would race anybody, anytime, any day. And, then you get to the Olympics and everybody's so dialed in with their splits and their cycle and their counts. And I'm just out there just like, I'm just love the water and I love to race and I work really hard. I do what my coaches say, and you get into this environment, like it's hard to put words into, like, think of like our high school swim meets, like
Yeah.
that's kind of like, oh, there's like maybe 20, 25 people in the stands. And then I go to Sydney, Australia, where swimming is like their biggest national sport.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a sellout crowd. I can't even find my parents in the crowd. We have like paparazzi following the swim team because there's all this trash talk between Australia and Team USA. And it's just elevated to a level I couldn't even comprehend at the time. I had never been nervous going into a race or competition. Like I said, I would have like anxious butterflies, more like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I cannot wait to race. It wasn't like the nerves or like I wasn't puking beforehand or
Yeah.
anything. It was more like, let me at it. But when I walked out for my very first Olympic race, like my legs felt like jello. I was like, oh wow, this is another
It's
level.
real.
Yeah, it is. And it's just the atmosphere is electric and the rivalries are like no
Mm-hmm.
joke. And even like when Team USA walks into the cafeteria, you see like everybody like all eyes on you. It's like there's Team USA. Like we have a reputation and the swim team has a lot of pride and we're a unique sport too where we're co-ed. So we travel
Mm-hmm.
together, we compete together, we train together. So we're really deep in numbers also. And being in Sydney was an experience like no other. And I learned so much at that meet. I'd say I had a very I would say a little bit better than average, but what I went into, I had a little bit higher expectations or hopes, and I came out not quite exactly where I wanted to be, but more than anything, the experience that I learned being at that level and being at that competition was like priceless. And
Yeah.
then honestly, getting a taste of the Olympic Games, you're like, okay, when can I do this again? It only
And
comes
you
every 4 years, and
and
you
you
want
did
it to
do it
come like
again.
the next summer.
Right. Yeah, you did do it again. You went back in 2004 where you won. Was that your first gold medal in Athens in 2004?
Yeah, so
That was
that Olympics was like a fairy tale. Like to come home and be like, I won a gold, a silver, a bronze, and I actually got fourth also. So I literally got first, second, third, and fourth.
wow.
Broke an American record, was a part of a world record relay. That was surreal. We
Mm-hmm.
broke the oldest world record in the
Yeah.
history book, and it was the last like East German women's record that stood. I always put it in quotes because they're known to be dopers. So it was the last like tarnished record on the books, and that one was special because, the Olympic Games, obviously, it is like a rivalry like you've never experienced. But when we broke that record, we had so many congratulations from swimmers across the world just because everybody was so happy to see that last tarnished record disappear finally after 17
Mm.
years. All of our rivals came up to us, shook our hands, congratulated us, well done. The cover or the front page of newspapers, like it was a
Mm-hmm.
really iconic historical race to be a part of. So that was pretty surreal, like not only to win gold, but to get that world record was really incredible.
And was that your goal going into that? Like, did you have a pretty good feeling as a relay that you were going to break that record in the training?
That's a really great question, Craig, because I wasn't I wasn't really known as a relay swimmer. I'm predominantly 400 IM, 200 butterfly, 400 free. The 200 freestyle is actually somewhat of a sprint for me, and I'm not much of a sprinter. And it was a new race for me, and it was one that I just did at trials, at Olympic trials, because I was swimming well. I was like, yeah, wouldn't it be cool to make a relay? And how I placed at the Olympic trials really placed me to be on the morning prelim relay. And that's kind of like a long-winded explanation how we do the relay system on Team USA. But long story short, I was having such a phenomenal meet that one of my teammates and actual captains, she was on the relay and she wasn't swimming as well. And she's like, you know what, I think you should save Kaitlin. Don't put her in the morning relay. We know she's swimming fantastic. Put me on the morning relay. Let's see how I do. And let's see where I stack up as far as who's your 4 fastest women. So she essentially gave me her spot to be on the final relay. And it was like coaches pulled me aside. I had to swim the 200 butterfly the same day, like 20 minutes before this relay. They're like, you're going to be on this relay and you're going to be the anchor. And I was like, oh my gosh, like talk about an honor and talk about like, oh shit, I've never done this before at an international level. I've only done this at a college level. But I also had a lot of confidence at this meet because I was swimming so well. I was having fun. I felt on top of the world. And so to answer your question, like I didn't really have records or times like on my mind, it was more like, wow, I get to be on a Team USA relay at night going for a gold, because anytime you're on Team USA's relay, you're pretty much expected to win. And for me, it was like, all right, Kaitlin, don't mess up this gold medal. And then there was a little chatter beforehand about this record, about the history of this record. And when you do the math, it's like, okay, if you go your best time and you go your best time and you go your best time, we have a shot at this record. And so it's really funny at the end of the race, you see it on NBC's playback. I look up, everybody's going crazy, says WR, and like I'm still kind of like, what? And I'm in the pool and it's a really high deck and I'm trying to get like my teammates' attention. I'm like, Natalie Coughlin was our lead off. I'm like, and she knows everything, like times, records, everything. I'm like, wait, was that the world record? Like, did we seriously just break this world record? And everybody's like, yes! And I'm in the pool and everybody's going crazy. And I was like, it was a mind-blowing experience and like still surreal to this time. It's almost like I remember it, but it's also a blur. It's almost like I remember it just from watching the playback, like having the old footage of it. And that was just a moment that was just like taking it all in from the crowd and knowing what we had just accomplished. That was a pretty surreal moment in my career.
I can only imagine how high of a feeling that would have been. You're at the peak, you won a gold medal, but not only that, you broke a world record after 17 years. That has to have been an incredible feeling. What was that like coming out after that, realizing that you had just achieved a goal that you were spending hours in the pool every single day, probably 7 days a week for years? What was that like coming out after that? Was that challenging after that?
They have this saying, the post-Olympic blues, and it really exists. It's like, for me, both times when I went to the Olympics, like I was still in school. So my first Olympics, I had to go back to like senior math class, and then in college, same thing. Like I was taking communication classes at USC, and it's just like, it's crazy because you're still so young, but you're also like the cream of the crop in your sport. And for swimming, you've just been like to the pinnacle of your sport. Like you just won the Super Bowl, right? Yeah. And now I have to go write like a comm paper, and so there's definitely a little bit of like a letdown after like everything settles from the Olympics and just kind of getting your footing back into college life. And because for a little bit it's really exciting afterwards, like you get to be like on talk shows and you're traveling and modeling, and I was doing stuff for Nike and had endorsements, and you're living like this like really cool professional athlete lifestyle, which doesn't really exist in the sport of swimming, but it's it gets really hyped every 4 years, and swimming's really popular every 4 years, so you ride that wave as long as you can, and then it just settles and you're like, Wah, wah.
It's
So
probably humbling,
it
to
is.
say the least.
Yeah, it really is, because some people will totally like kind of like fangirl or fanboy about you, like in like your
Hmm.
class. They're like, I can't believe you just like won a gold medal. Now I'm sitting next to you in class right now. And it's like real life, like got to get my degree.
Yeah.
It is. It's very humbling. It keeps your ego in check, that's for sure. And I think too, like most people would understand also, it's like I'm not jaded. Like I know swimming's not this like mega sport, but for a little bit, like we are like all eyes on us, and then it just kind of sizzles out, and then it peaks back up every 4 years.
Tell me about a time. I mean, every athlete faces a setback at some point in their career. What was one of the harder setbacks that you've had in your athletic career, whether early on or later, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, that's a really it's a little hits me a little it touches my heart there,
Yeah.
Craig, because I definitely had some really tough challenges to overcome in my athletic career. But I really do think they shape you and they make you stronger in the end. But leading up to my first Olympics, I was young, a whippersnapper, like could always go, Energizer Bunny, never hurt, never tired, just like always charging. And then when I came back from my first Olympic Games, I started like getting the very typical shoulder injury that most swimmers endure. And so just the PT, the rehab, the ice, the taking it easy, like just the very common things that we all go through. And then, I go to college as the top recruit in the nation, coming from the Olympic Games and going to University of Southern California. Could pick anywhere I wanted to go on a full ride scholarship, and I get there and my shoulder's still bothering me, and then I come down with this crazy, mysterious, nobody knows what's wrong with me, pain in my upper back. And it was a wild goose chase, like forever, like 6-7 months. Nobody knew what was wrong. It's like every specialist in LA, Greater LA, Orange County. And it was like this phantom mystery that nobody could really exactly diagnose. And I'm like, am I going crazy? Like, what is this? And I mean, it hurt so bad, it took my breath away. And I try to push through it as much as I can because I don't like to be a complainer. And I think people were like questioning me, like, is anything really wrong with her? Like, she's gone to all these like appointments and nobody can say what's wrong with her. Maybe she doesn't want to swim anymore. Like maybe she was at her pinnacle at 17 and she's hit her top and she's done. And it wasn't the case, it was just like, what's wrong with me? And then, you go to college and you get like that freshman 15. I'm like freshman 25, like put on all this weight because I'm not training that much. I'm eating terribly. The cafeteria below the freshman dorms is like Krispy Kremes and Jamba Juice. It's just like, and just everything at once, just college and homework and balancing a social life. And I was a wreck my freshman year. And I didn't know if I wanted to swim anymore. Like it wasn't fun. Like swimming hurt wasn't fun. But I somehow made it to the NC2As. And like the day after NC2As, I finally got an imaging back that showed that I had an intercostal stress fracture. And I also have asthma. So I was coughing a lot. I was always sick. And every time like I would cough, it would like pull my ribs apart. And that's where my stress fracture was. And it could just never heal. So it was like this 2-part thing. I had to take the whole summer off where I had to go see like an asthma specialist to get my asthma under control. And then I just had to let my back heal and do a ton of physical therapy. We tried everything you could imagine, but I really started from zero again for swimming. I mean, you can appreciate this. My physical therapist would give up his lunch break. He would meet me at a pool. I'd put a snorkel on and do like 100. And he'd be like, all right, that was a successful day. Like 100, like meters. And it's like I used to swim like 9,000 meters of workout like twice a day, and it was like literally starting from zero again. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I'm motivated to do this. I'm heavy, like I'm out of shape, like it hurts. It hurts so bad, but I'm not joking. Like what I said earlier, like once you get one taste of the Olympics and then you learn so much, you're like, I got to do this again. And so it was that motivation, that drive to make another Olympic team. And then honestly, like I am really competitive and I do like hold myself like accountable. Like I'm the top recruit. Like I'm going to school for like free right now. Like I need to like live up my end of the deal. Like I didn't want to just like bail on my team, bail on my coaches, bail on my university. And so I put in all the work for physical therapy and just like, it was like, some days it felt like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
And it was like a year and a half of like really not being at top form and getting through this injury. And then it was one of those like, I feel like my college career was like one thing after another. It's like as soon as I started getting better, then I was in a car accident. And then as soon as I started getting better, then I went to the NC2As and had like 102 fever. Like it was just always one thing after another for like 3 years.
Wow.
And so that was extremely challenging. Like I guess you could say long-winded response to your question. My challenging time was my first 3 years at college. And it shows, like, if you look at my credentials, it's like, wow, Kaitlin was a great international swimmer. She wasn't that impressive for her college because I only swam one season, maybe 3 months, not being injured because I ended up going pro my last year. So I couldn't, at that time, I couldn't compete for USC and be a professional athlete. Now it's, whole new game with NIL. But yeah, I only swam for 3 years at USC and I don't look very impressive on paper.
No, but you had that perseverance to keep pushing through and you didn't give up is what it sounds like. And I've always kind of said, swimming myself, that 25 meters or 50 meters of water taught me more than any classroom ever could because you learn so much about yourself. And I think that is the importance of getting our kids involved in harder things because you're an expecting mom for the first time. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit to come. But yeah, I think that's the importance of getting our kids involved in harder things, sports, or if it's not sports, something that challenges them because you can learn so much about yourself. And it sounds like you really learned a lot about who you are and how to overcome those obstacles in everything that you were facing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just teaches you so much grit and perseverance, and it does make you reassess too, like, because it does have to be worth it. You do have to love it. I feel like, people are like, well, when do you know, like, when you should be done with something? It's like when you don't love it anymore. And it's like, you have to really assess that though. Like you have to go out like on your best day, not your worst day. That's when you really have to like, do I love this enough to keep pushing through like all these adversities and challenges? But also like, you have to learn how to like be comfortable being uncomfortable because it's like, that's what's so amazing about the Olympics. Like not everybody can make it, and it's like a lot of people dream of being Olympian, but like what's going to set people apart? And so it is those like speed bumps or obstacles or setbacks or however you refer to them. It's like, it's how you bounce back from that, which determines like, or really sets you apart between good and great. And that's like what you said, like for me and for you, like it's being in that pool and following that black line that not only physically really challenged us, but mentally really challenged us. And that's where I feel like I am mentally really tough because of how much I grinded as a young child in multiple sports, especially swimming. It's a very challenging sport physically and mentally.
Yeah, but you can carry those character traits with you into the challenges that you're facing today, as a mother and, doing anything else that you're doing in your life. You can really, you've gone through hard things before, so you know yourself and you can get over the hump of other hard things because you put yourself through those things before. But I want to transition just a little bit and talk about nutrition now. I want to hear about what was your nutrition like growing up as an athlete? Because, we hear things now, maybe athletes' diets aren't the best. Maybe things are different nowadays. But what was your diet like as an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes me laugh, but it also kind of bums me out because I feel like I know I could have been such a better athlete then had I known what I know now. I eat so much better now. I have so many, like such clean supplements and habits and eating lifestyles. A lot of it thanks to my husband, who this is his background. He's getting his PhD in functional nutrition right now, has his master's in it. And honestly, Craig, like as a child, I'm going to date myself. I was born in 83. All right. So I'm an 80s baby. Like think about the stuff that was like circulating back in those days. And it's like, my parents just like, they didn't know, they did their best, but like what I was eating was like far from nutritious on a daily basis. I'm grateful for home cooked meals. We did have
Absolutely.
a lot of home cooked meals. But honestly though, Craig, like I shared, like I was really undersized for a while. So I went through a phase of my life where my parents like main focus was like putting calories on me. They're like, people are like, you are so skinny, like somebody's going to take you away from us. Like they're going to think we don't feed you. And so like I'm having milkshakes every night. I'm having milkshake and like raw eggs. Like and my parents, like they didn't care what I was eating because it was just like put calories
Yeah.
on this kid. And because I was doing so many sports and because I was going a million miles per hour, I was just burning through those calories. So a lot of my childhood was like, all right, let's put some meat on these bones. My dad is a fantastic griller, so we did have a lot of steak on the barbecue, a lot of chicken, a lot of salmon. But breakfast, for some reason, I never wanted to eat in the morning. My mom's like, "Oh my gosh, it's like the hardest part of my day is just forcing food down your throat for breakfast." And she's like, "Whatever you wanted to eat, I would let you eat because like you wouldn't need anything, you know."
You just
So
needed food, yeah.
yeah, and then like high school, like when you get your independence and you're driving, like,
No.
all right, I'm born and raised SoCal. Like we live on Del Taco, all right? And I know the Taco Bell fans out there, I don't want to hear it. Doesn't even compare. Del Taco is life. And I mean, we'd be at Del Taco every day. Like I'm embarrassed to say, like on my way to swim team, I'd be stopping at like Wiener Schnitzel, Del Taco, like whatever was quick, easy, like
Hmm.
affordable, and I'm just rolling through like my little Volvo, like getting like my little burrito and off to the pool. And I'm like, I look back at it and I was like, oh my gosh, like imagine if I ate well when I was at that level. And then as I touched on briefly, college is like a joke, man. Like, you get your little discretionary card through the university, and I'm just hitting Krispy Kremes, Jamba Juice. Like, I thought Jamba Juice was healthy in college. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I got like the oranges in there, and there's some bananas in there, and what? I'm just drinking these sugar bombs. And then, you go to the trainer's table or you go like the athletes where we all have dinner and you're just, again, starving all the time, burning so many calories. You're just like putting on all the carbs, all the pasta, like, what they're serving you. And you think it's healthy because they're feeding all the athletes, right? But it's like, I probably should not be eating the same stuff as the football team, but I am, I am. So my nutrition, I mean, I'm so sad to say, like, it's probably hasn't I know it could have been a whole lot better. Probably the last I could say I've been with my husband. Yeah, so like the last 12 years, I feel like I've really figured out and dialed in nutrition. And part of me feels like there's an aspect of me that's probably in better shape now
Hmm.
than I was when I was an Olympian, strictly on the nutrition and supplement side of things, because that lacked tremendously in my professional career, athletic career.
Yeah, I mean, as you could probably attest, nutrition is what percentage of success a lot of the times with athletics and just getting results. I mean, people out there that
Right.
are listening that maybe want to lose weight or just not just perform better as an athlete, but just want to heal themselves. Nutrition
Mhm.
is most of the battle, especially since you kind of alluded to it. You get your license and then everything is accessible. Fast food, everything in the grocery store, and it's marketed healthy, but it's
Mhm.
not. It's ultra processed and
Right.
it's crazy. But what is your diet like today compared to what it was 20, 30 years ago?
It's funny too because so the last 2.5 years of my career, I actually trained at the University of Michigan, and I was on an all male team for the majority for most of the time there, and I was training with guys like Michael Phelps, Eric
Mhm.
Vent, like we're talking like national team. I mean, I say Michael Phelps, that's all you really need to know. Like these are the guys I was training with, and you know I think nutrition is interesting because it's very contagious. Like who you go out to dinner with, who you go to breakfast with, that's like who you eat like.
Mm.
So I'm going, we go to morning workout, we swim 2.5 hours, we're in the weight room for an hour. Then we usually would all go to a diner together. And the guys are just hammering down like grits and pancakes and bacon and sausage and, breakfast burritos. And I'm like, I'm doing the same thing. Like I just did the same workout they did. I am just as hungry as they are. And this is the lifestyle, right? We usually do everything together. We're going to the same diners together and we're just hammering food because A, we're hungry. We want to hurry. We want a quick meal. We want a cheat meal. And then we want to like go home, take a nap before we have to do it again in the afternoon. And so I feel like it was like the accessibility, what was easy, what was quick, somebody else cooking for you too. Cause like when we were training around the clock, it's like, I'm not going to go home and do all this meal prep and etc. And then, touching on what you just said, it's like, oh, well, but I'm shopping at Trader Joe's. This is all healthy, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, no, like look what's
Read the
in this,
ingredients.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then, I say goodbye to swimming in 2008 and trying to navigate those waters of wanting to take a break from working out, but still wanting to be in shape and wanting to be healthy and wanting to eat healthy. And I'm older and I have, a little bit more money in my bank account. So it doesn't always have to be cheap food, and again, yeah, I'm shopping at Trader Joe's. So I think it's healthy, and I'm like, oh, what's Whole Foods? Like, oh, this, and not looking actually about what they're putting in it. It's more like where I'm shopping. So I think it's healthy and not really reading the ingredients. And then I meet my husband and he just has the most, because I think people get intimidated by nutritionists and they feel like you can't tell them the truth or they're going to be hardcore. They're not going to let you have a brownie, and my husband is far from that. And he was just so educational, he's like, okay, well, like our third date was like him taking me to the grocery store. And he's like, well, no, like look at the ingredients in this. And he's like, do you think that's healthy? I'm like, sunflower oil. I'm like, I don't know, sunflower, like canola oil. He's like, no.
Sounds good.
Exactly. Yeah. Sunflowers are pretty,
Innocent.
you find those in nature, And so it was just so enlightening to be like, oh, wow. Like I have no idea after spending, dating my husband, and he just opened my eyes to like a whole new world of just clean and whole fruits, vegetables, protein, and everything that we are basically taught to fear, like eggs and butter and red meat. And it's like, no, those are not bad. Those are great. And like, even like on the hydration side of things, like I was brainwashed, like we lived on Gatorade. Like we had, remember those jugs that we get in the green bottles? My gosh, I'd go through two. We had trainers that would fill us up during practice. I would drink 2 of those each practice. So I'm going through 4 Gatorade bottles a day. And it wasn't until I go see my dentist, he's like, what are you eating or drinking? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, you have great teeth, but your back teeth are just going to fall out. And I was like, so I tell him what my, my daily intake looks like. He's like, no, on the Gatorade. Absolutely not. And I was just like, wait, Gatorade is what the athletes all drink, and he's like, that is just sugar bomb, just destroying your teeth. And so it was like the dentist that like sets off this like red flag about it, and then, long story short, my husband like fills me in on that. He's like, it's not what it used to be. And this is actually what you should be drinking instead. So again, another long-winded answer to your question. I mean, we're very basic in our household. It's a lot of eggs. It's all grass-fed, grass-finished meats. We don't shy away from any red meats, a lot of raw milk, and just really getting dialed in with our supplements, a lot of ancestral supplements. I've been trying to be really good about hydration with either Element or lots of lemon in my water. We do like the Aqua True water, and then we even have another water purifier. I can't even think of the name right now, that like oxygenates our water. Like I just follow my husband's lead, and honestly, like my body type is way more fit and in shape than when I was swimming. I'm a lot more slender. I have a lot less meat on my bones, and all my friends are like, oh my gosh, what did you do? And I'm like, they're like, are you just crushing your workouts? I'm like, not really. I eat really well, and it's balanced for me. Like I definitely have a sweet tooth, but there's alternatives to the sweets too, it's like, and I love chips and salsa. There's alternatives to chips and salsa, it's just, there's just so many better options out there that didn't exist when I was training. But now just, you have to spend more. But like my husband always says, like your health is wealth, and, oh wait, did I mess that up?
Your
wealth is your health.
Yeah. Either way sounds good.
Sorry, Craig. Cut.
Either way sounded good to me.
Okay, just roll with it.
But it's so true. It really is. And, it sounds like you're eating more just whole foods in general that you can recognize, things that aren't as
Pronounced.
ultra processed. Yeah, pronounced, even though, I mean, sunflower sounds innocent, it's from nature. You can pronounce it.
Totally.
But yeah, you flip over the package on any label and you'll see there's a long list of ingredients. And, I've always kind of said that you literally make your tissues out of the foods, the nutrients that you're eating. And if you're eating random junk, even if it meets your macros, even if it meets your calories, and that's what you were trying to just get in because you were so active, your body can literally deteriorate. I mean, your teeth, your dentist said like your teeth were deteriorating
Mhm.
because you were eating all this sugar. What was that doing to your insides? Like, what's that doing to people's insides of their arteries? All that sugar, right? And
Right.
maybe, yes, over exercising to the point of swimming 9,000 meters a day can maybe offset some of that to a certain extent. But at the same time, like if we don't get our nutrition dialed in to the point where you're at now, eating just a basic diet, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be boring either. I
Yeah.
mean, you can make so many different recipes and meals and make them fun just by
Yes.
using the same maybe 15, 20 different ingredients, red meats and eggs. And you mentioned supplements as well. But yeah, it doesn't have to be boring.
And I love that too. It's kind of been like something that my husband and I do together. He's like, okay, look at this recipe. Like, how could we change it to like fit like how we eat, And it's like kind of fun to be creative in the kitchen together and how these alternatives. And like for his birthday, he asked for like an ice cream maker. And I was like, are we really going to use this? He's like, no, we're going to make like this protein thick, healthy ice cream. And I'm like, craving this ice cream every night now that like I don't even feel guilty eating. It's like ice cream, but it's made with real products, and we're throwing in like some like colostrum in it, or we're putting in like a protein in it, and like our really like high quality honey, and it's just like having this delicious ice cream that comes with no guilt, and it's just like not being afraid of like I feel like we've gotten brainwashed to be
Yeah.
afraid of butter, eggs, red meat, raw milk, yogurt, and it's like
Hmm.
no, like go back to the basics. Like that's like what our body thrives with, and then just being creative in the kitchen.
That's it. That's most of it right there. And we cover that a lot on our platform, talking about why we don't need to fear these animal foods that you're talking about. Eating that in the context of an ultra processed food diet. When you go to McDonald's or you go to a fast food, you're getting that meat with buns and seed oils and fried foods and sugar filled sodas. It's that stuff that is really largely the problem, combined with a sedentary lifestyle and high stress.
Yes.
But if you're not living an unhealthy lifestyle, otherwise healthy lifestyle, and you are just eating all these nutrient rich foods, these give you health, and you're experiencing that health right now. And you even said you feel like you're in better shape now than you were when you were in your 20s in the Olympics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do like a lot of motivational speaking. And I feel like one of the questions that always comes up is like, what should I be eating? And like,
Yeah.
what should I consume to be a great athlete? And especially like when I'm speaking to the younger population, I try to explain to them like, okay, your body is your high performance vehicle. And the gas you put in is how your body's going to run. So are you going to go put the cheap gas in your high octane, Porsche, or are you going to put like the cheap gas in because you're going to run poorly? So it's like I try to like make that analogy to like the youth. It's like what the food that you're putting in is your gas, and that's how you're going to run. What gas do you want to put in your body? And I think we have to like be able to make like that something that they can kind of connect with, right?
Mhm.
Like, okay, so like I tell them like eat a donut, you're going to perform like a donut, And it's like again, I'm not super strict. I do believe in balance. I do believe in joy and the pleasures of life, but it's like, when you are getting down to it and you're asking how can I be a great athlete? You go to these children's competitions and you see their snack bar and you're like, this is not going to help.
Breaks my heart. Yeah.
And it's like a lot of it is common sense. It's like a lot of it, like we know this. And it's the effort, it's the pain a little bit more. It's the
Mhm.
prepping before you go and not relying on the snack bar. It's packing your own snacks. It's the amount of like Starbucks drinks that I see kids walking around with or like at competitions with. I'm like, what are we doing? Like this is crazy.
Yeah. The double shot of espresso, the 5 pumps of syrup, it's like this,
Just
it's
crap.
concoction. Yeah, it really is. But you can make that a healthier alternative if you just know how to do it, or even know how to ask for a healthier alternative, and it can still taste just as good, if not a lot better.
Right, absolutely.
You mentioned supplements a couple times. I mean, we talked about your diet. We talked about, kind of your workouts. We can talk about maybe your workouts maybe in a little bit, now that you're pregnant and what you're doing now. But
Yeah.
you mentioned supplements. What are you including into your regimen right now?
So I have to be really honest, Craig. Like I was not a big supplement person for quite some time.
Yeah.
My husband is huge. Like you should see our supplement cabinet, and I've always kind of made like fun of him. Love you, babe. But I don't like taking stuff, and it's just like I just want to eat well, and that covers it. But then I will admit, I'd be the person that'd be like really good about it for like a month or two, and I'd run out. I'm like, well, I don't know if I feel a difference. Like, I'm good to go for a few months, and then I get back into it. So I never really gave it a go. But like a year before we like I started being really good about the year before we wanted to start trying to have children, and I
Yeah.
knew that I wanted to set my body up for the best possible situation going into pregnancy. My husband and I are both like on the older side for having our first child, so I wanted to try to do everything as right as I could, like leading up to it. So really getting dialed in with the different supplements, and the hard part too about supplements is that there are so many out there, and a lot of them are not good. They're poor quality. You don't know where they're manufactured. You don't know where it's coming from. They're not clean. They sneak those oils in,
Yep.
and and also I think too, like the price tag on a lot of them, you're like, that's daunting in itself. And so it's sorting through like what is the best quality, what, the
Right.
bang for your buck. So again, I'm so blessed because of my husband's education in it. It's been this process of sorting through like, okay, what am I actually going to be good about taking? What will I get down? So recently, with our pregnancy or with the pregnancy, I've been really good about taking colostrum. I've actually really, really liked the taste of Ancestral's protein vanilla powder. And I have been incorporating that almost daily in some capacity or another, either in a smoothie, putting it in my yogurt and mixing it up and adding some like berries and some like grain-free granola with it. Or some days I'll just literally just blend the protein powder with raw milk, and I just put them in my colostrum, and I'm like good to go.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good. And like what's so crazy, Craig, is like I feel my body starting to crave it. Like I like look forward to getting up in the morning and like having that. And then also including fish eggs in right now. And then of course I'm on a prenatal, and then oh my goodness, we just got out of the season of everybody being sick. So,
Yeah.
upping up the vitamin C, the D, the zinc, the NAC, stuff like that. And I do feel hair, skin, and nails. I do know pregnancy helps that too, but I can't help but think the supplements are like really increasing that. Which my nails grow so fast, I can't keep them trimmed. My hair is the thickest and the longest like it's ever been. My skin, like I read like during pregnancy, your skin's like actually goes through phases of not being good. My skin's been like fabulous this whole pregnancy. And I've been feeling really good. And I can't help but think these supplements have a lot to do with it. I think I started it enough time to getting pregnant that I had the effects to carry through my pregnancy. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm pregnant, I should start taking everything. It's like I got it in my system leading up to conceiving and then going through it. So I had no morning sickness. I honestly, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx myself. I haven't had a lot of fatigue. I've been crushing my workouts. I'm probably getting after my workouts more now than I was like a year ago. I just feel better when I
Dang.
work out, and making sure I'm taking like my amino acids afterwards. And it's been, I've heard this from women, like some women go through these like crazy cravings where there's like, fried food and desserts and sweets, or some women are like, okay, my body's a temple. I'm growing a child.
Yeah.
Let's give this baby all that's best. And it's almost like my body is craving health over junk. Like my cravings have been fruit, and it's like, okay, like awesome. I'll take that.
Yeah, that's a
But
good
in
craving.
I do have a sweet tooth and I do indulge, but we're making homemade ice cream now, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, your supplement needs right now are definitely tailored towards your area of life right now. You're
Yes.
pregnant. You're definitely making sure you're getting in, like you mentioned, the fish eggs for omega
Mhm.
3s and all the important
Mhm.
functions that has on a growing baby.
Yep.
But then you mentioned, I mean, the protein powder also has beef organs in it. It has bone
Yes.
broth, which is probably a reason that your skin, your hair, your nails are glowing and growing. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but
It
it
was
kind of did.
great.
So, but they are. I mean, I can see your skin right here. It looks great through the screen, but yeah, I mean, all these supplements that you're taking is great, but even for the general population, I
Mhm.
mean, if you're eating a whole food diet, people might ask the question, do I really need to supplement if, I'm eating a whole food diet? And my response is typically, I mean, in today's world, our soils are depleted.
Yeah.
Most whole food diets just aren't, we're not eating organs, which are the most nutrient dense foods, beef
Right.
organs like liver and heart and all these other organs. Colostrum is a super nutrient dense food.
Mhm.
Fish eggs are nutrient dense food. If you can just incorporate a couple of those foods into your diet, you're
Right.
filling in so many nutritional gaps that you
Mhm.
might not be getting in your diet otherwise, because steaks and burgers, as nutritious as those are, they don't have the same nutrients that liver has or fish eggs or colostrum has. So I guess my long-winded question lined up for you is, if you could pick maybe a few supplements that have really maybe helped you, or that you've maybe noticed the best results, or that you would keep in your diet after pregnancy for just general health, which
Right.
few would you pick?
That's a great question. And actually, this would be great to have your feedback on too. So,
Mhm.
I was taking the beef liver heading into my pregnancy and like through the first trimester. And they do like so much blood work, especially in the beginning. And my doctor was blown away. She's like, I don't normally see this with women. She's like, your iron is like so good, like almost too good. So she's like, wheel it back a little bit with like what, your, the beef liver. And so I've kind of cut that like a smaller amount because then now I have it in the protein powder.
Yeah.
But after pregnancy, I feel like that's what I'll go back to because like the beef liver is just like nature's multivitamin, right? So if you're somebody like me prior to this pregnancy who doesn't like to take a lot, I'm like, okay, what's like the one thing, I
Yeah.
think I would recommend that the most. But you also, and that's what I love about ancestral too. It's like very tailored to you and like get your blood work done. Like it's kind of like shooting fish in the barrel. Like, oh, what do I need? Like you
Hmm.
don't know until you go do the research and figure it out. But it's funny that you asked this. Recently, I had like 3 girlfriends reached out and be like, okay, I'm on Ancestral's website. There's so many great products. Which one should I do? And I'm like, beef liver, get the protein powder, and then do colostrum. Like those are kind of like my 3 that I recommend. And I'll tell you too, like my sister's older than I am, has some medical challenges, and she was like asking me about colostrum. So I filled her in, and then I gave her some colostrum to try. And she's like, should I be feeling just like really good? Like my joints feel so good, my body feels so good. And I was like, yeah. Like she was like blown away, and it was really pretty quickly for her when she started feeling that.
Hmm.
And so then having that feedback from somebody that very organically, like just in a conversation, sister to sister, I was like, okay, this is really cool. And it makes me feel good, like when I'm recommending it to like other girlfriends and being able to be like, okay, I love this product. I think very highly of it. But like, this is like my sister who's not really into health and nutrition as much as myself and my husband. And she's like blown away by it. Now getting my dad on it, I feel like it's one of those products, like no matter your sex, your age, your
Hmm.
amount of activity, pregnant, not pregnant. It's just like one of those supplements that can really benefit everybody. And I think too, like the fish egg is just that's another one I kind of like want to throw in there also. It's
Yeah.
it's hard because I really do want to take everything. I'm just not good at it. And
Yeah.
you do want to like make sure you're not overdoing it in some things and being
Absolutely.
smart how you're getting everything. But I feel overall so much better since being on these supplements,
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, Kaylin, you probably shouldn't make fun of your husband for being on supplements anymore.
I love it. I love it so much. You're in a stage of your life. You're preparing for your baby to come very soon in just a couple short months.
Yes.
What you're living a very health focused, I guess non-toxic kind of life right now. Outside of supplements and nutrition, what are some other things that you're doing to just help your health, Pete's health, which is your husband? I don't know if we mentioned his name.
Yes.
Shout out Pete,
Shout out, Pete.
and your baby. What are you doing to support all your health outside of kind of
I
nutrition
love,
right now?
I love that question. Yeah, I am a huge advocate for sleep. I think that is just what we need, what everybody thrives in. Some people don't need it as much as others. I am a person that could crush 10 hours every night.
Hmm.
So I'm really trying to be very conscious of going to bed early. It gets a little bit more challenging the further along in pregnancy you get, and just giving yourself grace to rest. I have to admit, and I have to say, I feel very blessed right now because my schedule has been able to slow down. And I feel like being a pregnant woman and not having the stressors of a 9 to 5, or I actually feel like there's no real work balance anymore. It's 24/7. I think that it's been a huge blessing for me to not have a heavy load in the workforce area. I don't have a lot of stress on my plate right now because of profession. That's been a huge blessing. And I know not everybody can have that gift, but it's something I'm really grateful for. And it's something I really believe in. So between really trying to optimize my sleep, relieve any type of stressors, I'm a big believer in grounding. Luckily, we live very close to the ocean, so just getting my bare feet on the sand and walking on the shoreline. We have beautiful front lawn here where we live, and just getting my toes in the grass, and getting our sunshine. I really believe in the vitamin D and being in the sun, and just getting optimal exposure to
Mm.
sunlight. I try not to wear my sunglasses very much. Um, and also, obviously, like we talked on nutrition, is like my exercise. Like,
Yeah.
I go through different cycles of like being really committed to being on my exercise and not. Like, I kind of fade in and fade out. Like, I'm very guilty of that. I think that's probably very relatable for people. But right now, like, I'm in a cycle where if I miss, I don't feel good and I want to get there the next day. And I'm
Hmm.
out there rocking my bump like 30 weeks pregnant, and just charging with like all the other women and men in my class, and it just makes me feel good. And I think you have to listen to your body. And I try to at night ground myself before we go to bed with the red light in our room. I put on very peaceful music. And really just surrounding myself by a lot of love and friendships. I think for women especially, we need to connect with each other and really soak in that time, that quality time that I can, because I know life's about to get a lot different moving forward these next couple months. So really getting that quality time in with my girlfriends and my family. And for me, I love attending church on Sunday. That really grounds me, and it brings me like a huge amount of peace and serenity in my life. And then just trying to soak up quality time with my husband. I know that's going to look a lot different
Hmm.
moving forward. He has a very busy schedule right now, and he's grinding away with his PhD and working full time, and really taking off the financial burden from me right now, and really working some pretty intense hours getting ready for baby boy on the way. So that in a nutshell is what I've been really trying to focus on: the sleep, the balance, the serenity, keeping stress out of our lives. But more, the top thing, and it's funny when I hear from Pete, like, all right, did baby boy get his eggs today? Is nutrition. Like, I really think when you're growing a human, what you're consuming, what you're putting
Yeah.
in there. And it's funny because I think about it, like, it's not about me anymore. I'm like, okay, we just had 2 eggs. Like, I talk like that. And it's like, yeah, it's for him. I'm
Yeah.
eating this for him, and I'm taking this colostrum for him. And it's
Mm.
funny, like you have another sense of purpose in your life.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's beautiful. I love that so much. And when you're speaking, all the things that you're saying to build a healthy life and build a healthy baby, it reminded me of a moment that I had with my wife 5, almost 6 years ago. We celebrated her great grandma's 100th birthday in 2019, and she will be 106 this year in October. She still lives independently,
Oh,
still lives independently.
oh,
And we asked her on her 100th birthday, we said, I wanted to know, I said, what were some of the secrets? What to get you to 100? What would you say were some of the health reasons? She said, exactly what you were saying. She didn't have a high stressed life. She didn't have to work that hard. Her husband was able to work for her, and she had this loving community that she was able to surround herself with. She read something every day that helped her to grow. She kept this sense of purpose. She went to the library every day, or not every day, but she went often, she said. She cooked home cooked meals, and she stored everything in glass containers. This is all
Wow.
so specific.
Ahead of her time.
And
Yeah.
she used olive oil, real extra virgin olive oil a lot.
I love
And
it.
she loved sunlight was a big thing. So everything that you were saying, I can attest to. My
Yes.
wife's great grandmother is saying the same thing, and she'll be 106. She'll actually be a great great grandma because our baby is due soon. So we
Yes.
would want to get those pictures, all the generations.
Oh,
That would be
that's
cool to
so
see.
special. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. She definitely seems like ahead of her time, like knowing that.
Hmm.
But it is, but it isn't. I think that's so sad with society. Like we've really gotten away from that, right?
Yeah.
It's like we just need to go back to simpler times
She
and
gave
like,
us a bunch of cookbooks, all of her old cookbooks that were written so long ago. And I just wanted to flip through half a dozen of
yeah.
these just to kind of see what the ingredients were like. No seed oils at all. I couldn't find a single seed oil.
Of course.
Everything was maybe sourdough, but then the oils were like butter and lard. And I'm like, this is what she was cooking home cooked meals with that helped her to get to 100 and almost 106 years old.
That's incredible.
Real nutritious foods. So everything you're saying, definitely like I love, and it just sounds like a beautiful lifestyle that you guys have built together. And it's truly incredible. I can't wait to see baby boy here in just a couple short months, because
Yes.
everything that you're doing is truly remarkable, and it's gonna come to fruition very, very soon.
Thank
Um,
you.
Caitlin, this has been an awesome interview, and I loved having you on. Can you let everybody know where they can learn a little bit more about you, what you're up to these days, and how they can connect with you?
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah, I would love that. I go through spurts of being active and not active on social media. I pretty much predominantly just use Instagram, and it's just at Kaitlin Sandeno. Had a really, really exciting 2024 with the Olympic Games. I was really blessed to have a lot of opportunities to do a lot of motivational speaking and appearances and gigs. And
Mhm.
my biggest honor last year was I got to be the co-host of the U.S. Olympic swimming trials, and that was just surreal to be on deck for such an electric swim meet 9 nights in a row, and all the build up for
Mhm.
Paris, and it was just like a really, really cool time in my professional career, probably the coolest year that I've had professionally. And things are just kind of starting to settle now. It's like perfect time with a baby boy. I plan to raise him and be a stay-at-home mom for at least his like first 4 or 5 years. If I had the opportunity to do local events, I would love to. And once he's old enough and then I can start traveling, my husband's all for it, getting me back on the road. But that's my life's that's like my life's passion as far as professionally. I love to share my story, to motivate, to encourage. I love hosting, I love emceeing. I've tried the corporate world, I've done the professional world, I've done the 9 to 5, I've done the 8 to 4, and I always get pulled back into the sports realm, the speaking realm, the encouraging realm. And I find that brings me the most happiness and purpose and fulfillment. And I love connecting and relating with people, and I love doing podcasts. And I don't think I don't consider myself an expert in any field by any means. I just have my experiences and what I can share from my experiences, and I hope people can relate to those and pull from them in one capacity or another. Tomorrow, I'm getting ready to speak to a women's group just about being the best version of yourself, and I think that's ultimately what all we can really do or strive to
Yeah.
be. And for some people, that looks like an Olympic gold medal. For other people, that looks like the best mom on the planet, or the biggest boss lady CEO. Like the best version of ourselves is so different from person to person. But I think if we can ultimately have that as our kind of mission statement, you can go to bed happy at night.
I love that so much. Thank you for joining me today. Caitlin Sandeno, everybody.
Thanks so much. That was a blast.